Intertalk Radio, you're in to all things music.
I heard it was moving like 1 football field per second. And I believe it because I was in the driveway and I saw ash and smoke. And by the time I went inside the house, closed the garage, went out the other door to get in the car, the hill was on fire. It was just like seconds.
Welcome to Making It with Terry Woolman, the show that explores the secrets, successes, and strategies for making it in the music biz. And now, here's your host, Terry Woolman.
Buenos dias and welcome to the show. And thanks for tuning in, everybody. I want to let you know how much I appreciate you joining us on our show. And if you missed our last interview, which was Tuck and Patty, you can hear it and all of our episodes at entertalkradio.com/makingit or download our app and take us with you. So often I get asked questions about the creative process, so I created this show to focus on what it takes to have a lasting career in the ever-changing landscape of the music business. You're really in for a treat as I've invited my friends, some of the best and brightest in music, to share their stories on how they have influenced the music that has shaped our lives. I guarantee you're going to love it. So let's get started. My guest today is Luis Conte. Luis Conte's genius stems from his ability to integrate the powerful rhythms of his native Cuba with the American necessities of American pop music. His long and varied career has included numerous film scores and mega successful albums with Madonna, Ray Charles, Phil Collins, Santana, Shakira, Jackson Browne, James Taylor, Sergio Mendes, Cachao, and a multitude of other artists too numerous to mention. Born in Santiago, Cuba, Luis spent the first 15 years of his life soaking up the rich musical heritage of El Son and Carnival. While immersed in the music of his native Cuba, Luis also developed a passion for rock and roll, R&B, soul music, jazz, and the Beatles. At 15, looking for freedom, Luis immigrated to Madrid, Spain, before moving to California, where he stayed with a cousin and attended Hollywood High School, playing guitar in numerous rock bands throughout his teens. By the time he was 18, Luis was focused on drumming and took every opportunity to play and to learn, drawing his inspiration from a deep source of rhythm absorbed during his youth in Cuba. Since then, he has become one of the most respected and recorded percussionists in the world. Please welcome my guest today, Luis Conte. Hey, Lou.
Hey, Terry. How you doing, my brother?
I am doing well. It's great to talk with you also. Yeah. And I'm glad that you and your family are safe from the California fires that we just had. You know, and we both have friends, many friends who have lost their homes, and many more who were evacuated. And I'm just really happy that you're okay.
Oh man, thank you so much. Yeah, we made it through, man. We're really blessed. We got through this thing because it was so close. I literally, when I frantically drove out of the house, I said goodbye to the house because it's a miracle. It was just amazing. It was like right here, man. I've never been that scared. That kind of a panic thing that you hear about. Mm-hmm. I had never experienced that. It was like, we got to go. Like, man. Right. It was terrible.
Was Lupe? It was you and Lupe, or the kids were nobody else was around in the house but you two?
Well, my wife, we're empty nesters now because my kids are all married, but my daughter lives about a mile away. So what happened is my daughter came over and helped us put things together, pack things in the cars. And she took one car, and then I told Lupe to just to go ahead, and I stayed behind.
Right.
With the other car, and and see what was going on, because there was really not much going on. But this thing just, I heard it was moving like 1 football field per second, and I believe it, because I was in the driveway, and I saw ash and smoke, and by the time I went inside the house, closed the garage, went out the other door to get in the car, the hill was on fire. It was just like seconds.
Immediate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was gone,
Yeah.
Thank God.
Yes, I agree. Yeah. Well, let's jump in, and you have you have some wonderful and a very long list of credits. And one of the things when I was preparing for our conversation today was, I don't know if you remember this, but many years ago when you and I started playing on the Byron Allen Show, it was a late night talk show that we did for 3 years. Yeah. They needed a resume of you and a photo, and which I was completely embarrassed to ask you for, because because you were more than qualified, to do the job, and you were the person that I wanted, but they still insisted. So the only photo that you had at the time was the cover of a Modern Drummer that you were on that wasn't even out yet. So it was your only copy. You lent it to me for a photo and said, please make sure you get this back. And then as far as credits, you hand wrote a bunch of credits. And it was, I wish I still had that piece of paper, because it was really just, fun, really funny and kind of mind boggling to see this list, of all these wonderful artists that you've worked with. But the other thing is, I also looked up on your IMDb page, for a bio, and saw the complete alternate version of your credits. It's the shortest bio I think I've ever read, which was really funny to me. And it just says, Luis Conte was born in Santiago, Cuba. He is known for his work on Rise of the Planet of the Apes, Transformers, and Payback.
That's it?
That's it.
Oh, man. Okay.
So if you ever need a short bio that anybody asks for, just go grab that from IMDb. So I thought that was hysterical.
Where was that at? On my website?
No, it's not on your website. There's a website called IMDb, which is they show film and television credits, and it doesn't list the other thousands of film and TV things that you've done.
Okay.
So they don't stay very current. But those aren't the 3 credits that I would normally think of when I think of you. So
yeah, Planet of the Apes, perfect.
Right. So Lou, there's I've got a few quotes that I want to refer to in our conversation, and the first one of yours is, I really don't know how I got started playing. As far back as my memory will go, I owned a drum. It's like asking someone, how long have they been breathing?
That's right. That's correct. Because I really, I was I was back in Cuba, right? As you mentioned before, where I was born.
Yes.
I hear that when I was a little baby, all I was doing, there was always music in my house. My father was a doctor, but he loved music, and my mom. So the radio was always blasting, or the record player, whatever. My dad would bring a new record. Hey, this is the new Aragon record, or whatever. Mm-hmm. And I hear that as a little boy, I was just like get some little cans and things that would make noise and start beating on them, or I would go over to when I go visit my grandma, my aunts played piano as a hobby. They were teachers, and there was a piano, and I would just always be on the piano, trying to just playing notes. And so that's as far as I can remember, from what I hear from my grandma. She used to live in Havana. She used to come and visit us and spend 3 months with us once or twice a year. And she's the one that would say, this kid, man, he really loves music. Mm-hmm. So she brought me a guiro. Another time she'd bring me a set of bongos. Another time she brought me maracas, et cetera, et cetera. And I would just, whatever she brought me, then I started playing to the radio with, So that's as far as I can remember. I was playing,
And who got you your first guitar? Was that after you moved to Spain or to the States?
No, what happened was I was still in Cuba, and I don't remember what age, I must have been maybe 12 or 13, because I left when I was I left when I was 14 years and 11 months, almost 15 years old. So it must have been when I was 12 or 13 or something like that. And there was always rock and roll played in my house also. My sister had Elvis records, and we didn't have a lot of information back in those days, because of the Cold War. My sister had some records that were just left over from before the Castro era, and it was Elvis and Bill Haley and the Comets. I'll never forget that record,
Sure.
Carnival Rock, man.
Yeah.
And she also had I remember she had actually the LP of the music from the play Oklahoma, and I used to just love. Oh, what a beautiful morning! And I used to play it on the piano. Anyway, so around the age of 12 or so, I asked my dad. The Beatles came around, of course. Boom, and that just like lit it up for me in the rock scene and the pop scene. And I told my dad, I want to play guitar. And so my dad bought me a guitar. He bought me an acoustic nylon string guitar, and got me a teacher who actually, the teacher came, and I had 3 lessons, and then the teacher disappeared. Never came back. My next lesson, here we are. I'm waiting in my living room. He's coming to the house and never showed up. And my dad never could find him. And we're from Santiago, not a super huge city. Right. Nobody knows whatever happened to this guy. So I just took it up upon myself just for what he had taught me in 3, some fingering. He taught me how to play classical. I actually started, the classical way, sitting like a classical player and finger picking. So I don't really play with a pick. And I just started, getting some chord charts, and this is how you play a B flat, okay, or B7, and just taught myself. Yeah.
Do you still play guitar?
Yeah, for fun.
Yeah.
And I've played on a couple of my records. I've played a little bit, and I play a little bit of tres, which is the Cuban guitar. Yeah. I play a little bit of that, not much, but I just really love it. I enjoy it when I'm just gonna just chill and stuff like that. I sit in my room and play the guitar.
The tres is an instrument that Jackson Browne bought for you, correct?
Yeah. So yeah, actually,
great story.
I was over at Jackson's place, just hanging, and he's got a bunch of guitars and stuff like that. And I opened, there's one guitar case was open, and there was a large guitar. Too large for a tres, but it's strung like a tres. And I go, hey, Jackson, what's that? He says, oh, man, that's a tres made by Candela's guitars. Oh, okay. And I picked it up, and I said, oh, hey, a couple of little tumbaos and stuff. I go, yeah, man, And he goes, I go, like, but, this tres is too big. The tres is a smaller box, He goes, really? So he's such a beautiful cat, man. I owe so much to Jackson Browne. He's just a wonderful person. And he goes, hey, wait a second. So he's down in Santa Monica, right? So he calls McCabe's. And I just hear him in the conversation, hey, you have a tres over there? I go, yeah. He says, hey, Louis, come on, man, let's go. So I get in his car, we go down to McCabe's, and they had 2 tres. And so he bought them both. And I'm going, well, I wonder why he's buying, he just buy one, And when we come back to the studio, we take both tres back to the studio and we tune them up and I show him a couple of little thingies, and he goes, well, here, this one's yours, Such a beautiful cat, man. Yeah. It's such a great story. It really speaks to your friendship and the kind of person that he is as well. Yeah. And we can cut away from the tres for a second as far as for Jackson Browne. Actually, the reason why I after 40 years or so of leaving Cuba, I actually returned and visited Cuba for the first time in 2009 was really because of Jackson, because it was, he didn't have a gig down there or anything, but he just sort of like inspired me and put the, lit the fire and like, yeah, man, you got to go back, man, and we went back. He took me back. I went back with him.
And can you define or describe the feeling? Like, what was that like for you emotionally? It must have been really a lot to go back there.
It was so unbelievable, man. It was let's just put it this way. It was a 2-week trip. And if I would have written a letter to God as like, hey, God, I have, a request. I'm going on this incredible trip and I return to my homeland, et cetera, et cetera. I would like to do this and I would like to do this and that. And this is the things I like to enjoy and experience. It's like God took the letter and like threw it away and said, no, man, that's not good enough. It was unbelievable. From the moment I got on the plane, we flew to Mexico, and then we flew from Mexico, we flew to Havana. And that flight from Mexico to Havana, man, I was in tears already.
Yeah. I'm not surprised.
Just fantastic. And a funny thing happened. I was also scared because I didn't know what to expect. When I left, it was the Cold War, and even when I used to have to listen to the Beatles or any rock and roll and stuff like that, you have to play it real soft because it was against the law. It was imperialism, the American music,
The only music you were allowed to play was traditional Cuban music?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you're not going out there with your ghetto blaster sounding, Can't Buy Me Love by the Beatles out on the street, man. No way. You know? So I'm coming from that world. I've never been back, so I don't know what to expect, So I get in there, and it was amazing. The first, customs agent, the immigration agent, is this lady, this Afro-Cuban lady, dressed with the fatigues, the whole thing, the red star in the hat. You see the picture behind her of Castro and blah, 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 all the communists and all that. And she goes, where's your Cuban passport? I don't have a Cuban passport. I'm an American citizen, and I left before 1972, which the law says for Cubans, immigrants that are going back, you don't need your Cuban passport anymore. Since you're a citizen of another country, you just need a little visa.
Right.
She goes, well, that's correct. She goes, how many times have you visited Cuba? I went, none. This is the first time I come back. And she goes, when did you leave? I said, I left in 1967. And she goes, she went from like being like a hardcore, not friendly agent.
Right.
To she went in Spanish. She goes, oh my God. Well, it's about time. Here, welcome to Cuba. It was even that just going in there was incredible, That's
so great, especially, based on the amount of fear that was everywhere back in 1967. Yeah, because my perspective, I was across the water from you. I grew up in Miami, and in that same time, as little kids, we were practicing drills hiding under our desk in case we got bombed. By, in case there was with the Cuban Missile Crisis. So there was, Castro really had a stronghold on a lot of people's psyches, in Cuba and certainly in Miami.
Most definitely, man. It was great. We went through the same thing as you over there, fire
you were
drills.
Doing that, same thing. Right.
And down to the point where they show you how to march and how to disassemble an AK-47 at the age of 12.
Wow.
Just to be ready for the invasion, whatever.
Yeah.
Things have changed. Nobody really cares now. I've been down there.
That's right.
They still have a stronghold on the people, but the people are just living.
Yeah. It's so wonderful that you got to leave, and make this beautiful life for yourself and make your mom and dad so proud of you because they got to see, your success.
Yeah. Very blessed, man. Being very blessed. Yeah.
So who were your, not just musical influences, but more importantly, who were your life influences, when you were growing up and even when your career started?
Oh, my mom and dad, man, my parents, my family, my mom and dad, my grandma, my aunts, those two aunts that I told you that were teachers, they were just huge influences in me in every way, and then I was here listen, when I came up and I got here at 15, I was by myself. So I got disconnected from everyone. Mm-hmm. So all I had as an inspiration was I was going to I didn't know if I was ever going to see my mom and dad again. I mean, in those days, you have no see any of them. I couldn't call them on the phone. I didn't speak to my mom and dad for like 7 years. Never spoke to them on the phone. Never heard their voice. I would just get letters once in a while. So my inspiration, it was them. I just sort of had this inner thing of like, we're going through this separation, this whole thing that's happened, and I just have to. If I ever see them again, I have to make them proud of me. Right. And that was my. I don't know how to say that in English. My what inspired me to get through everything. I was. How do you say it?
What's the Spanish word for that?
Ese era mi aliento, mi esperanza, my hope.
My hope, right?
So it was. I had a pretty lonely high school time. My high school days were sort of pretty strange.
So did you kind of lose yourself in music, and since you felt isolated? Is that something that you filled your time with in a clearly a productive way?
Exactly. So as soon as I got here when I was 15, and I remember just being able to put on the radio and listen to whatever I wanted to listen to, we're in the U.S., American, I was getting, Aretha Franklin, man, the Four Tops. Oh my God, the Spinners, the Beatles, the Rolling Stones,
Right.
It's going nuts. I didn't have any money. I didn't have a penny. So my first year between 15 and 16, I would go, there was a place, I lived in Hollywood. I moved to Hollywood with a third cousin of my dad. That's the only relative I had here. So that's where I stayed. I went to Hollywood High. So I would walk from Hollywood High School, which was Sunset and Highland. I would walk on Sunset all the way east to Vine. And in the corner of Vine and Sunset, which is now Walgreens or something, there used to be a place called Wallach's Music City. And that was a record shop. And they also sold on the other side, and the other side of the store, they sold musical instruments. So the record side of it, they had listening stations. So I would go from high school, I go in there, but after a while they knew me, and they just let me in as long as I want. And they would let you go in with 3 LPs, and you can listen to them.
Right, without buying them.
And of course I would never buy anything because I didn't have any money. And after a while, they kind of knew me, and they just I just go in there and listen to 3 records and come back out and come back in again, So I would get lost during that year doing that. And then as soon as I was 16, I had a little part-time job. I saved a little money and I bought a guitar. And with some friends from school, we had a little band, and we played, school dances, and I would just get away. I would get away from the reality of my separation from home and everything else with music and with the guitar. I got disconnected from the drums for that high school period, for those years. It was really funny, So, and then I found the drums later, right after I graduated from high school.
But when you, as you say, found the drums, did you discover that it was already really deeply embedded inside of you, that it was so much a part of your upbringing?
Well, I'll tell you how it happened. I had no idea. First of all, I was just floating along, man. All I wanted was, when is the exit for my mom and dad to get out of Cuba going to happen? Because I miss them, and I got to get, and I have to have a job. So I got a part-time job. I'm going to save some money. So if they do come out, I can rent an apartment, et cetera. That was my whole thing as a kid, So I'm thinking of that. I'm escaping with playing with my friends, a little rock and roll, a little bit of this. And all of a sudden, I finished high school, and I started going to Los Angeles City College. And the first week that I'm going to go to school or something, I hear congas somewhere, and they're coming from the student union. Oh, they won the student, the little area there. I go in there, and it was like the African American Student Association was having an event, and they had these guys playing, with big afros and, dashiki shirts. So,
right.
Boom, 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 they're playing,
Uh-huh.
So, I could already do that because I did it when I was a boy, right?
Sure.
So
yeah.
when I saw those drums, I went, oh my God. I had not even thought of a conga drum for all that time. When I go, oh man. So I like literally, when they stopped playing, I ran up on the stage and I just went, hey man, where did you guys buy these drums? And they go, over on Michael Torrena and Sunset. They were called Valje congas.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh man, can I play them? He goes, well, if you know how to play. And I just went, and I went, yo, man, you can play. I said, yeah. When I put my hands on that drum, that was it. That's when I knew.
Right
it
there.
was right there.
Yeah.
That was the moment. Yes, sir.
What a beautiful memory.
Yeah.
Yeah. And in this story that you just were telling me and sharing, you said that you had a part-time job, you were saving up money to, because you wanted to hopefully have an apartment for when your parents came. You so far exceeded that goal. I remember when you bought your mom a house.
Yeah. Oh man. Yes, sir.
And how great that felt for you to do that. I know you were so happy. It's not even, I know you were proud, but it brought you such joy to be able to do that for your family.
Of course, man. Yeah. It's just, by the grace of God, it all happened, man.
Right.
Yes, sir.
Well, let's talk about that. One of the things, you and I both came up not having very much money, and then transitioning into having careers, was there anybody that mentored you in business? Like, where did you learn how to make money? And also, where did you learn your value financially in the music industry, and then also what to do with the money so that you didn't squander it, that you actually built a life, in a future, and a family? Who taught you those things?
I think going back to my parents, because I'm a natural saver. I'm a saver. Right. And I learned that from my dad, because when I was a little boy, I remember going to a bank with my dad, and he opening a bank account for me, with $1
right.
or
wow.
$1. Yeah, so I grew up with until I was 15, and then I was on my own. But I had that early teachings of you save for a rainy day. Just put things, don't spend all your money at once. That's just, so it's kind of a natural thing for me. So I was always, right. After I was 15, nobody really told me anything. I just thought, well, my parents will somehow get that's what you do, and somehow I'm gonna need some money, because if they ever get out of there, they're gonna come out with nothing. I'm the man. So that just triggered it right away to save and be able to get an IRA for the future, retirement, right. All that stuff. Sure. I was thinking about that stuff when I was a kid, when I was young, and how to don't waste your money, and getting into the music business. Then you start going, oh, well, I'm going to play music, but then you start realizing, wait a minute, it's not like I'm working this week and next week, and no, it's like, maybe I might be working this week and not working the next month.
Right.
So you learn to you can't just throw it all away, man. You know what I mean?
I do know what you mean, and the irony and is that really hasn't changed. You still, even at this point of your career, there are times where you are working, nonstop for a week, and then you don't have anything for a month. Exactly.
An example is the perfect example. Last week, I was swamped. I'm swamped today. I'm swamped until all the way till Wednesday. When we finish our interview, I got about an hour break, and I'm starting a record in my studio for some guys in Spain that sent me a couple of tracks, et cetera, et cetera. But 2 weeks ago, I didn't do anything.
Right.
I went to the movies and I went shopping.
Right.
That's the way it is.
Yeah.
You know.
So your mom and dad prepared you well.
Yes, sir. Yes, they did.
So what do you remember? Let's just start really when your career started. I mean, because you've had a really remarkable career in kind of unique. There's only a handful of people, musicians in the world, yourself included, that have a really strong touring career and also a very strong recording career.
Yeah.
You know, and it's very unique, you know, and I mean, we know who the other people are. They're friends of ours, but it's a very elite group of people who have managed to really be active in both. Where other musicians that we know who are really amazing at certain points of their career, they made a decision. I'm not going to tour anymore because I want to focus on being a session musician, or the other way around. Some people said, you know, my world is traveling and touring, so I guess I'm not going to be the guy that plays on all the records. In addition to your talent and your attitude, what else what do you think attributes your ability to keep that going all these years?
Well, you know, as you know, all of us all started playing live. You know,
right.
You grabbed the guitar and you started playing, and I grabbed whatever, you know, and we're playing live. There's air moving out there. There's people. Oh, and now there's an audience, and there's people out there.
Right.
And so that's how we all started. But then I remember going into a recording session for the first time, going in the recording studio. I had no idea that I could go boom to go boom to go boom, and then go cheek chicka cheek chicka cheek over that. You know, an overdub. That's what it's called. Right. You know, I had no idea that you could do other tracks, and I was just fascinated by the studio. So I kind of go, man, I want to do that. I want to do that too, you know, this and that. But when I got really busy, you know, you start getting really locked into the studio scene. I started doing a lot of dates. And in my case, I sort of like, because you could do so many sessions that you have no time to go play live, you know. I kept going, wait a second, you know, I kind of miss, you know, it's nice to go out there and play. So I always wanted to keep a balance. So luckily enough, you know, I was getting, not at the very first, but I started getting calls by big tours like Madonna and people like that, you know. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I'm not going to say no to that. I'm going to go out there and play for thousands of people. This is huge. And, you know, and the thing of like playing and, you know, the air is moving. It's not like in the studio, you know. I don't know.
I agree. The energy is, it's electrifying. And it is a different energy when you're in front of a live audience.
Right. Exactly.
Especially with the kind of pop tours and rock tours that you've done.
Yeah. You know, I mean, and even at the very beginning, man, my very first touring little thing was the Hughes Corporation, the song Rock the Boat. Remember that?
Sure. I do. Yeah.
With those guys, you know, and like the first trip was like a promotional trip by RCA Records that they took us to Cherry Hill, New York, took us to Washington, D.C., and took us to Philadelphia. And then came back, and then the next gig was like a week at the Apollo Theater, you know. And it was like, how can you forget that? I mean, I'm at the Apollo Theater in 1975, I think it was.
Amazing, right.
You know, and in the bill is like the Hughes Corporation. George McRae, he used to have like Rock Your Baby. Remember that song? It was the other disco song of the moment. The Commodores before they were known. And a band called the Crown Heights Affair, which was like was a band from Brooklyn that was sort of like an Earth, Wind, and Fire thing before Earth, Wind, and Fire came out. Yeah. You know, I mean, just go ahead.
Were any of the guys from Earth, Wind, and Fire in that group, or stylistically it was similar?
Stylistically, and I never heard about these cats ever again, and they were amazing, so funky. They was from Brooklyn. Until, you know, the artist Michelle Ndeocello, the bass player.
Yeah, bass player. Yes.
I went to work on her first record. I played on about 3 of her records, I think. And I played on the first one. We start talking, and you know, we just talking away. And she's from Brooklyn. Oh, you're from Brooklyn, man. I said, man, I saw it. There used to be a band in the 70s, man, the Crown Heights Affair. She goes, what? I know those guys. She's the only person I know. You know, an underground kind of a thing from Brooklyn, man, that everybody
Right.
from Brooklyn knew, you know. So I just always kept it, you know, so you come back home and you do some recording days. Okay, and then we go to New York and play. Great, sounds good to me. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
And I remember, hey, Sarah, let me call you off a second. I remember one of the studio guys here in LA, you know, Heavy Cat, one time we were doing a session. I'm going, yeah, man, I'm leaving next week for about 6 weeks. He says, man, when do you go on the road? I mean, you're so busy here in town. It's like, I remember that question being asked, and I answered it that way. I said, man, I gotta do both. I gotta go out there and play out there for people, man. It's a different thing.
Right. Right.
You know? Yeah.
It's great. You know, I've always marveled and really enjoyed vicariously, you know, from being friends with you all these years, watching you like leave and do these wonderful things and then come back and not have to start over again. You know, even, you know, some artists at a certain point started waiting for you, you know, or you were able to work it out. You could go out, you'd go out with Madonna and do the tour and also play on the record and then come back and do these other wonderful projects, you know, in the studio. And so I applaud you for that. It's been really special to watch.
Thank you, man. Thank you. Yeah, it's just a blessing that people are so cool like that, you know.
Well, I think one of the things, and another quote of yours that I got off of your website, which is, it's not just your talent and musicality that you have to work really hard on, but also your people skills are just as important, sometimes more important.
That's right. And I tell you what, you know what my dad's line always was? In Spanish, I'll say it and then I'll translate it. It says, lo más importante es caer bien, which means the most important thing is to, caer bien means to fall on the right way, which means be pleasant, get along with people, don't be a jerk. You get introduced to a new group here, you know, you're not like the king of the mountain, you know, you just, you know, just be nice, be a good person. That's the main thing. And that is so important, man, because you can go on the road and you're a jerk. I've seen that happen. You know, there's one guy that just doesn't fit in, and, you know, okay, you're on this leg of the tour, you're here for 6 weeks, you know, and the next leg of the tour, hey, what happened to Joey or Harry?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Well, he's not back. We got this guy, you know, because, you know, you're living with, when you're on tour, you're living with people, you know?
Right. Yeah. And people want to be around people that they like.
Yeah. You want to laugh together. You want to have fun. You don't want to, like,
Right.
you know, problems, man,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's very important. Your people skills, very important. And, you know, and don't be late. You know, also, you know, be responsibility, you know, lateness or taking care of your equipment, you know, learn the music, you know, all that stuff. It's people skills. Take care of business, you know.
Right. Because if you're late, you're being disrespectful to the people that you work with and for.
Exactly. And then you're hanging everybody out. Okay, lobby call, 2:00. Let's say we're on the road. Okay, lobby call's 2:00, and here you come at 2:10.
Right.
I mean, you're not that late, but you're late because everybody else is waiting for you in the van or whatever.
Well, and most professional musicians, if there's a 2:00 lobby call and you get down there at 1:45, everybody's been already waiting for you.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
that's more typical, you know, of the you know, the people that are working, you know, and have great careers.
That's right.
You know, so once again, great advice from your dad.
Yeah, man. Oh, yeah, man. I get
So-
kind of
Luis, I just saw that you just got named as the new cultural ambassador for the Latin Music Institute in
Yeah.
Mexico City. It's in Mexico City, right?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Congratulations.
Yeah, it's what an honor, man. I'm an ambassador, and I just met with them this weekend, and I'm gonna be I'm gonna get an honorary doctorate, man. I'm gonna be Dr. Conte
Wow.
in April. Yeah. Hey, my dad was a doctor, so hey, there we go.
Dave Grusin was given a doctorate recently, in the last year or so, and he was kind of wondering if it might make him feel smarter after they actually handed him the degree.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. Yeah, but it's wonderful, man. And
it's a great honor. It's a great honor.
And the people, the other people that are in ambassadors are like, I'm going like, when I saw the list, I go like, are you kidding me? I'm one of those guys. Man, I'm next to like Gil Valdez and Omar Portuondo, Oscar de Leon, Pancho Cespedes, all these huge guys that I've listened to, people,
Yeah, well, you are one of those guys. And because of the work that you've put in and the age that you're at, and your heart, your corazon, that you bring to everything that you do.
Thanks, man. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Luis, why is teaching and mentoring important to you?
I love it, man. I'll tell you why. Because what I know and my musicality, whatever it is, it came from above, and I don't own it. I'm just a medium, man. I'm a medium. It's going through me. So here may be, Harry, Ian, Costas, whoever it is, and needs a lesson, and I can show him something. It means the world to me, and it's so rewarding for me, It's really rewarding. I'm teaching actually a class at Cal State Northridge when I'm in town. I take care of the Latin jazz combo, and it's just a thrill, from the first week to like we just did our concert. They get to play a concert for the students and the parents and stuff like once at the end of the semester. We just did it this past Saturday. And it was just rocking, man. I mean, I could almost have tears in my eyes, when I'm like, I'm playing with them, because it's like, check this cats out, And it's just wonderful to pass all that info, Go ahead.
You look really proud in the photo from with you and your students. I saw the picture.
Oh yeah,
you were glowing. Yeah,
Every semester is like that, and every semester it's just different kids. Every semester it's been like that, and it starts like the first. excuse me. The first week is like okay, we gotta get this thing together. We gotta, I gotta work with all these guys, and then it starts. It just starts gelling, and it's just awesome. And we'll have some. It's a 2-hour class. Once in a while, we'll like we'll play for like an hour, and then I'll take the second hour. A couple of times in the semester, I'll take the second hour and go like, hey, well, let me talk to you about the business, man, how this works. Because these kids are like, in their early 20s, and they're gonna go out there in the world. They're just playing all day because they're in school. But now you're gonna have to go out there, and I gotta give them all that info.
That's right.
Yeah.
What has changed about your playing and also about your perspective in life as you've gotten older?
Ooh, I think definitely that thing of less is more is so important.
Right.
And my playing, I mean, I don't know. I don't know if it's gotten better or if it's gotten worse or what. I just, I don't know. That's a hard question to answer, man. I just keep on playing. I try to explore more, because being a percussionist, I just explore more stuff, all the kinds of music.
Right.
That's what changed other things. I did a record recently with Pete Lockett, who's a fantastic percussionist from England. And, he's a master. He's a completely other world, man. Tabla and frame drums and kanjira and all this stuff. And we did a thing together, and things like that, because, I'm learning from him, he's learning from me, other worlds, that's what changes,
Well, and you're saying, you also said less is more. And, one of the things about your playing is that you've never been afraid of space. You always leave holes, you never clutter a track up. Even when you are stacking 4, 5, 6 overdubs, everything still breathes. There's still light coming through in all the parts that you play.
Cool. I hope so. Yeah. I don't try to do that. I just think it just happens naturally. but I like the space. I don't, I never been, look, man, when I started, even way back in the day, start practicing, oh man, what's that lick, And like, I never really been like super crazy about being the greatest soloist in the world where I can go out there and go, man, what was that? I don't care about that. I've cared about like, oh, well, there's this groove. I'm going to make it a little better, Right. I'm going to add this to that, and I'm going to groove along with that. That's kind of my thing, If there's a solo, I have to take a solo. Okay, I'll solo, but it's never been my first, thing to do.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Just like you go out there and do drum clinics and things like that. For me, I'll play a little bit by myself, but people expect for you to be like, I'm not a circus. You know what I mean? Like I can do
right.
Not a circus. It's just music. Yeah.
Let's talk about the difference between, we've already discussed the difference between energetically and creatively between touring and recording. What about working in film and television? Because you've done a lot of that as well. And you and I have worked in television together. What's your favorite part of working in TV, and which part do you enjoy the least? Well,
it's just that world, TV and film, it was a more controlled world. Mm-hmm. I feel like people are more in control of me, which is fine. You have to read music, Mm-hmm. I mean, if you're going to go out there and play with James Taylor on tour, you learn the songs. You never read it. I never read a chart, just
Mm-hmm.
so, Now you go to work on a movie or a TV show and you have charts and you have to know how to read music. So you have to know how to do that stuff, and things are more controlled. Now, being a percussionist is you're not as controlled as like it would be maybe yourself, that you're going to have a chart where actually you have the actual notes written.
Right. Yeah.
I have some rhythms maybe written, maybe not. Maybe it just says a 16th feel.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's a break where you have to read, etc. But it's more controlled, That's the difference between, records and live to that kind of world sometimes it feels more like work. It wasn't like that when we did the show with Byron Allen, because we were, we had charts and everything, but it was a band, we were
a band. Right.
We were a band. But you can be going to a TV show scoring date or a movie date, and, it's like, 10-minute break every hour, and the bell rings and you go on a break, and here's a huge orchestra and everybody comes back. It's like being in school or something, It's,
right.
It's different. It's great,
yeah.
But it's another experience,
Let's talk about endorsements, because you've had long relationships with some of the companies that you've worked with, including even designing some of your own percussion instruments. Yeah. What's your philosophy about endorsements?
Well, you play. Okay, some guys get caught up with like, man, I want to, because it's free,
right?
But you gotta, if you're gonna endorse something, you gotta be able to play it and enjoy it,
right.
and it'd be the right thing. So it's like, if you love Martin guitars, you get a Martin guitar. Try to get an endorsement from Martin guitars. Don't get a, Ibanez, because whatever,
Right.
So
right.
I had the chance with Meinl Percussion, which is a company in Germany. They approached me, and I was playing Latin percussion instruments before, and they were all cool and all that. But in this case, man, I can make like my own timbal, like I always wanted it. And I have my own signature series congas, and I had these shakers, man. I had like a set of shakers now that, I can go to any recording session and nobody's going to say, hey, you have a different shaker? I can pretty much cover it with those three.
Right.
I wanted things like that. And that's what the endorsement should be. Something that whatever company you go with is something that you need and you're going to really use and you're going to enjoy using. Not saying, well, this is cool and I got to play this because I'm with so-and-so, but I wish I was playing that other thing,
Right.
Yeah, that's the main thing.
Right. So you only align yourself with companies that you love the product and that you have a relationship with, that you grow a relationship with creatively.
Exactly. I play Remo heads, Remo drum heads, and I've tried other heads. Those are the heads I like,
Mm-hmm. Right.
If it was somebody else, then I'd leave Remo and go there.
Right.
You know, et cetera, you know.
Right. Because again, you mentioned Latin percussion and you were with LP for many, many years, but you know, part of what made that relationship great was Martin, you know, the owner of the company, the founder of the company that we all had a friendship and a relationship with and a respect. And sometimes that shifts, you know, when a company grows or is sold or, you know,
That's
so.
Yeah, he was getting ready to sell the company. Things were being made in Thailand, and they were starting to do a bunch of stuff and different things. And then I was in Germany, and I saw the Minor Instruments because they weren't that known. Now they're known all over here, you know. But and they say, hey, you know, if you come with us, you know, we'll make instruments the way you want them. I go, really? You know? So well, let's make me a timbal. Let's see what you guys can make.
Right.
And the timbal is like fantastic. I say, okay. That's how that worked, you know. Yeah.
Well, that's worked out well for you and for them,
It's
and for a lot of other percussionists who now have the opportunity to play what instruments that you've co-created with them.
Yeah, man. I mean, I was watching a video the other day. There's this great salsa band, classic from Puerto Rico, El Gran Combo. Man, and I'm watching this video on YouTube, and it's like the cat is playing my timbales, you know, my signatures. I'm like, oh my God, you know. and I'll tell you another story if we have a second. This is one of my mentors, my timbale mentor is Orestes Vilato. He's this fantastic player. He played for Santana for a while, but he's like an old school, the real thing, man. And we did a record called Cuba, LA, here in LA. He flies down. He was endorsing Pearl timbales at the time. And I had sent my stuff over, conga, timbales, bongos, everything. And Orestes says, hey, man, they sent me the Pearl timbales, but can I try yours for a minute to see, you know, and A-B them, you know, see what they're like? He goes, yeah. And guess what? Guess what he ended up using on the record? My timbales.
Right. What a thrill. That's great.
He's my mentor, man. Yeah.
Man. We have about 5 minutes left in our conversation, so I want to get to our closing questions that I ask all of the artists on the show. The first, it's a two-part question. What does making it mean to you, both personally and professionally? And also, can you share 3 tips for success that have driven your career?
Making it means to, you know, just to stay afloat, playing music, doing what you love. Whether it's music or computers or whatever it is, you know, that's making it. If you're able to spend your life doing what you love, that's the main thing. It's a lot of unhappy people out there doing jobs that they don't like, you know.
Right. Yeah.
And what was the second part of it?
Can you share 3 tips for success that have driven your career?
Oh man, 3. Just be true to yourself. Be true to everybody. You know, I believe in God, so trust in God's will and just keep your eye focused over there at the light at the end of the tunnel, because it's not going to be easy. You're going to get bumped up and down, in and out, all the way, but you're still looking at that light down there. Just keep going that way. Keep going. Keep it straight.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Luis, at this point of your life, this is my final question for you. At this point of your life, with everything that you know to be true, what would you tell your younger self if you could?
My younger self? Oh my goodness. Musically, Luis, go back to school and learn how to play more mallet instruments and timpani and all that. Mm-hmm. That's what I would love. I wish I would have done that back then. That's what I would tell myself.
Wow.
Musically.
That's an interesting thing. That's not what I expected you to hear because it has not, I don't think it's held back your career.
No, it hasn't. Yeah.
Well, is it too late to do that?
No, it's never too late.
Yeah.
But the thing is time, because as we get older, see, teaching those kids in school, I tell them, hey man, play, you know, just don't worry about it. You know, just play, because now you have all the time in the world.
Right.
But you know, I gotta pay bills, and I gotta go take the car because we need tires or whatever, or there's a fire, so we gotta hire somebody to clean the ash, whatever. You have life. Life gets in the way, and you have less time. So to study all these mallets and all these things, I would love to be a timpanist. I love timpani.
Yeah.
I have to get some timpani and really take some time every day. I have to have a couple of hours to study. I don't really have that time right now.
Yeah.
That's where it gets more difficult.
Right.
That's like, do it early. I wish I would have done. That's what I mean. I wish I would have done it. Yeah.
And anything, other advice for your younger self, non-musically, but just personally?
Oh, personal. Man, I don't know. I think I've been pretty cool. I don't know. I just keep living. I just trust God, man.
Yeah.
Every day. So I just keep getting even more focused on that, on God.
I want to circle back to one more quote of yours, speaking about where your homeland, and you said music is almost like food to Cuban people.
Yes, sir. And
can you elaborate on that?
It's like music is everyone. It's music is everywhere. When I went back to Santiago, man, there was one point during that first week where I went, okay, let's just be quiet for a second. Everybody just be quiet. Because you're walking down the street, the radio's blasting. Or there's a street corner rumba happening. Or there's a in the daytime, I'm talking about a Wednesday at 1:00 in the afternoon. Or there's the Casa de la Trova, and there's like a trio playing out there. And there's a bar, and it's just stuff going on all the time. And people just feed on music. It's so musical down there. I don't know.
Right.
It's an amazing place, man. And the guitar.
It's a great description.
Yeah. And the guitar I realized when I went back to Santiago why, besides the rock and roll, why I wanted to play the guitar when I was a kid. Because the main instrument in Santiago is the guitar. Believe it or not.
Not the conga. Yeah. Interesting.
The music, song comes from the guitar and the tres. And there's a whole bunch of bands down in Santiago. None of them have a piano player. It's always guitar, acoustic guitar, and tres, and percussion and bass.
Right.
It's crazy. Song. It's song. Yeah. So it's just everywhere, man. Everywhere. Music everywhere. Oh, it's unbelievable. You don't sleep.
Right. Well, that really explains you. I can see how you turned out the way that you are. We are done. We're out of time. It's been really wonderful spending the hour with you and sharing your story. We're going to post your website, which is luisconte.com, so people can find out more about you and go buy your solo albums as well, which I encourage everybody to do. Luis, thank you so much for spending the hour with me.
Man, love you, man. Thanks for thinking about me.
Always. I love you too. And thanks everybody for listening, and we'll see you all next week.
Tune in again next week for another great episode of Making It with Terry Woman.